and I can follow you guys.
Hey, here we are, everybody.
Hello.
I hope everybody, this is the first one, so we're going to take a minute here and make sure everything's coming through. People in the chat tell me how it's sounding. I think it should be okay, but we're doing our best to get all this set up, discovering all the little ins and outs of Twitch and OBS. So does anybody in the chat, does it sound okay? Other people, other players here, feel free to sound off.
Woo. And no one speaks.
More than just that,
we're gonna. Can hear us. Hopefully, you can.
I get somebody saying it sounds pretty good, so that's good.
Yeah, nice.
Hooray!
Awesome.
Couple of people saying it sounds alright. So cool. So I'm just going to set all of that crap aside, and I'm not going to look at that anymore because it's just going to be distracting. Hi everybody, welcome to the first NerdBurger Games game of Capers. This is going to be a full campaign. The title is The Chicago Way. As you might guess, we are going to be set in Chicago. And I've got 4 players here joining us, and we will get to them all in just a moment and talk about, introduce their characters briefly, and then get started. But this is going to be a full campaign all the way through. The characters that they created are starting level characters right out of the Capers book, and we're going to take it as far as we, whatever is feasible for the story and for what Capers supports, because there kind of comes up there's kind of a top end to the system. So yeah, let's talk real quick a little bit with everybody, and just tell us a little bit about your character so we can kind of set the stage. Chris, who are you and who you playing?
I am playing Kieran the Raven O'Sullivan. He's got pale white skin, a long beakish nose. He is tall and thin. He walks with a limp in his left leg, and he walks with a cane. He is a broker of information. He specializes in knowing everyone and knowing at least a little bit about everyone, so that he can hopefully take advantage of that, use it to his advantage. He has a axe to grind with the outfit, for reasons which will be revealed later.
And Chris is not referring to his clothing. The outfit is the nickname given to the Giada / Al Capone Chicago mob. That is to say, the kind of Italian-led mob. Chicago is also well known for the North Side Irish mob that's led by a fellow named Dean O'Banion, and we'll probably run into one or two of those people, but we'll see. Maybe not just yet. June, would you like to tell us about your character?
Sure. My character's name is Rose. Rose Thorne Hawthorne. She is about 24 years old, has short black hair, and blue eyes, basically. She is a cleaner in a sense, which means she likes to tamper with evidence found on crime scenes until they're telling a story that is not what it is meant to be in the beginning. She tends to like playing pranks and tricks with people, but she's very respectful of a person's boundaries, and if they don't like a certain prank, she stops. So.
That's Rose. Madfish.
Hello.
Put down the one and start talking.
You're already putting me under investigation. I'm playing Sitskoka Panatella. She is a Russian immigrant. She is a lounge singer. She likes to wear a lot of flashy jewelry. She likes to be very glittery. Things that are high class and or at least look that way, because times are a little lean. She likes to, she just really likes to sparkle. And maybe all of the things that she wears are not necessarily acquired legally, but you wouldn't ask a lady about her jewelry, would you?
And Owen.
Last but not least, I'm playing Oliver Morrissey. He goes by Ollie. He is a mid-30s, short and wiry Irishman from Boston, actually recently moved to Chicago for reasons that we'll get into eventually. He's a bit brash and loud, but rarely serious. A lot of bluster. Good Irish Catholic boy. And I will be talking with an accent the whole time. It's awful. Get used to it. But that's about all you really need to know, I think, up front. He doesn't really... He does what he needs to do to get by.
Oh, that's pretty wide open.
Yeah.
Okay. As we open our scene, it is the 1920s, the Roaring 20s in Chicago. The Volstead Act was passed and started being enforced a few years ago, and making basically everything about alcohol illegal except for the consumption itself, the production, the export, the import, the transportation. The manufacture is illegal, but technically the consumption of it is not. And so that puts all of the all your drinkers in the clear, but those who are looking to get rich off of the drinking are dealing with breaking the law by doing it. And the United States Bureau of Prohibition, which is newly formed, is severely understaffed and undermanned and can barely keep up with just a handful of arrests and stings here and there. The rise of organized crime in the United States has blossomed because of Prohibition. All of a sudden, all of these mob organizations and underground organizations and street gangs found they had a very, very lucrative revenue stream in alcohol. And it's not terribly difficult to make or to get. It's just all being done on the sly. So when the Volstead Act went into effect, essentially everybody who was involved in illegal alcohol distribution and sales started getting rich pretty much immediately. That is to say, the people at the top of the food chain oftentimes got very rich very quickly. Giada Torrio and her protege Al Capone are quite wealthy. Dean O'Banion is quite wealthy. Some of the people out on the East Coast, in particular in New York, are also quite wealthy. But this story does not concern those super wealthy people. At least they're not super wealthy yet. It concerns the four characters that we've all just met, and they are hanging around at a little bitty speakeasy referred to as Sully's Pub. And Kieran, you know Sully's Pub in that it's the back of a boarding house. It's the back end of a boarding house. So it effectively has a front that is a legitimate operating boarding house run by Maggie O'Sullivan, who is Kieran's essentially adoptive mother.
Yeah, the woman who basically raised him. Yeah,
raised him from the point where when he was orphaned. And she runs this boarding house along with Kieran and her daughter, Siobhan, and a number of other people that kind of help. There's a little band playing music for Ro when she sings in the speakeasy, and there's a bartender and a bouncer and all that sort of stuff. But these people also have functions within the boarding house, and they help keep that operating. You are located, of course, in Chicago. Kind of pinned between the western edges of Chicago where Al Capone and Giada Torrio hold sway, and the northern reaches where Dean O'Banion and the Irish Northerners kind of run the show. You're probably, Sully's is I would say closer to O'Banion's flower shop. Dean O'Banion is a flower arranger as his front. He's very, very good at it, as a matter of fact, and well known. He provides being Irish. He provides a great deal of the flower arrangements for police officers killed in the line of duty. And Chicago police officers being disproportionately Irish. The group of you are at Sully's pub. Kieran, of course, kind of works and lives there. Ollie is a regular. Ollie is, I guess, are you the norm of the place? Is that what we...
Kind of. I imagine he probably lives in the boarding house as well as like a tenant.
Sure.
Just for lack of a better place to live.
Okay, so are you saying have you got like you've got a proper room where you've actually decorated a little bit and you really truly live there? It's more of an apartment than it is a boarding house to you. Decorated
is sparse. That's probably an overstatement. More okay. Just like he crashes there. He has a regular room that he crashes in.
Okay. That
they haul him up to when he gets too drunk at the bar.
Ro, do you stay at the boarding house as well, or because you have parents in the area? Do you want to talk a little bit briefly?
Yeah,
just only as much as you want to reveal at this time.
Yes. Well, what the average person would know is her family does own a jewelry store where they sell all kinds from lower end to high end jewelry. And Ro just, kind of wanted to go make it on her own. The shop is doing just fine. They didn't really need the extra, staff. So, Ro just said, I'll, I really like to sing, so I'm going to go off and do that. And it's just easier for her to stay in the boarding house than, going back and forth all the way. So I think she would just stay there.
And what can we
And not
say?
because she's hiding anything at all.
And what about Rose? Does she... I mean, you could have an apartment easily enough. I'm not trying to make everybody stay at the boarding house.
I understand. It's okay. She does have family within the area, but she does stay at an apartment because she doesn't want to go too close to her mother. So.
Okay. And I forgot the name of the thing, so I'm looking it up. Hold on just for a moment. Ro, for your information, the area where your parents' jewelry store is actually called Ukraine Village. It's an actual area in Chicago. It's
nice.
right around the Little Hell area, and it's only about 5 or 6 blocks away from where the pub is. Not terribly far from Humboldt Park. If anybody knows Chicago and where Humboldt Park is, we're kind of in that general vicinity. In time here, I will have a map that I can properly show people. I've started to mark a few things on it, so eventually I'll have something that we can all enjoy. But for the time being, you're on kind of the northwest side of town, and it's the evening at Sully's pub, and things are hopping, kind of, a little bit. It's a Friday evening, and it's early, so it's just getting started. You've kind of started to see the workaday stiffs are just starting to roll in, the people who have those 9-to-5 jobs, and bartendress actually, Elsie is taking care of things at the bar. All of you know Elsie's last name. She's not terribly happy with her name. Her name is Elsie Kelsey. She curses her parents for coming up with that beautiful name. She prefers to just be called Elsie. And she serves Ollie up a drink there, and starts to flirt away with you. She has a well-known thing for Irishmen, and she's doing one of those where she's kind of leaning across the bar and she pushes the drink over to you, and then she's up and kind of running her fingers on your upper arm and chatting you up with a little small talk. Which eventually turns to darn near asking you out on a date, but not quite. Like she's just waiting to see how you respond.
Okay. Wow, put me on the spot right up front. Okay, well, I'm definitely flirting back. Ollie is a bit of a ladies' man, so he's gonna follow that lead pretty clearly. I don't know what to say because I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, are you is Ollie is he when he wants to be? You know, is he at all suave with the ladies? Does this come across like does he you know?
Oh, he's a shameless.
Does he have, in today's parlance, does he have game?
I'd say he has game.
All right,
more game than I do.
All right, that's fine. Well, let's take it to a check.
Okay.
For everybody who is familiar with the CAPERS game, you'll see kind of this play out on our poker table in the middle here. CAPERS uses playing cards, and we will be delving into the different aspects of how the game system functions. And when we hit something for the first time, I will give everybody a little description of how it does. And I'll probably like re-hit on those types of descriptions every several episodes. We might redo how a skill check works just to make sure, or a trait check works, just to make sure everybody maybe that's coming in later or perhaps has forgotten. So to start with, basically it works like this. Every character has a series of 6 traits. And they are cognition, or charisma, agility, perception, expertise, resilience, and strength. And pretty much everything you're going to do is based on those 6 traits. You also have a series of skills like acrobatics, guns, sense, willpower, things like that. When you're going to make a trait check, you're going to be able to flip a number of cards. And that number of cards is going to be based off something called a card count. The way it works is for a trait check, you will look at your trait score for whatever it is you're attempting to do. And in this case, Ollie's making a charisma-based check, right?
Yeah.
So what's your charisma score?
It's actually 2.
It's a 2.
So it's not anything spectacular.
And then you'll start with that as your base card count, and you'll add 1 to it if you have an appropriate skill.
Nope.
And Ollie does not. For this type of a check, it would likely be diplomacy. He's not lying. He's being forthright with her. So it's just kind of, diplomacy is all about, being honest about things and upfront, and deception is the skill for lying and cheating people. So you're stuck with 2 cards.
I'm stuck with
Now,
2 cards.
There are other ways to gain bonuses to that card count. So your card count right now is 2, but we're going to go ahead and give you what's called advantage in the game because she already likes you.
Oh, isn't that
and
sweet?
because she already likes you, you gain advantage, and that's going to give you a +1 to your check. So you got 3 cards to flip. And what Owen's going to do for Ollie is flip 1 card at a time, shooting for the basically you're trying to get the highest card possible with the best suit possible. Your pip value, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to ace high, determines success versus failure. So you might need a 10 or better, you might need a queen or better. The suit determines the degree of success, and it starts with clubs being the worst, going alphabetically up to spades as the best. So you could conceivably flip a very high card, but only get clubs, and that's going to be the worst success possible. There's probably a complication with it. So you may want to flip another card, in which case the old card goes away and you take the new card. And you have, in this case, for
my first flip
for Ollie, you've got 3 cards to flip. The first flip is a 7 of spades, which is spades, which is good. But 7 is not terribly good.
So I'm going to go ahead and flip another. And I'm doing worse here.
And that's even worse.
So last but not least,
hey,
we got a king of spades.
So a king is obviously very high. I'm assuming you're going to just stick with that.
Yes. Sticking with that one.
And that was he went all the way through his card count, so that was technically the last card he could flip anyway. But the group does. Every character has a resource in the game called Moxie, which is represented by the poker chips on the table for everybody. And that's a resource that will fluctuate. It'll go up. It'll go down. And you can spend those Moxie points on a number of things. And one of the things you can do is get an extra card out of it. But Ollie doesn't need that, so he's sticking on a king of spades. You are charming as hell. Elsie is just eating up your words. She's looking at you. Her eyelashes are fluttering. She's ignoring other patrons.
It's the accent. They can't help it.
And she, with the spades, she out and out asks you out. She gets up the courage. Well, if he's not going to do it, then I'm going to do it. And she asks you if you would like to go to the cinema, to the movie palace.
It's a date, dear.
And so
Pick
she
the
makes
day.
a date with you for Saturday evening to go see something at one of the grand movie palaces in Chicago. While all of that is going on, Kieran realizes that, well, no one's manning the bar now. And so maybe you want to step in and kind of get things under control.
Yeah, Kieran will step up to the bar reluctantly. He doesn't like manning the bar. That's what Elsie's for. But you do what you have to.
Elsie's down the bar, just
Actually, I would probably walk up to Elsie.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me. If it's not too much trouble, do you think you could, I don't know, maybe get back to your job?
She kind of glances your way, but she is fully enamored with Ollie right now, so she kind of ignores you.
Kieran, give the girl a break. She's got taste, and she's hanging out with me.
Taste she may have, but if she'd like to have another thing which is going to be useful for that date, namely money, she should probably get back to work.
That gets her attention, and she gives you one last squeeze on the arm and pours you another beer and puts it in front of you, and then goes back about taking care of the other patrons.
You get to it last, he says, and he pats her on the ass as she walks away.
Maggie, as that is to say Sully of Sully's Pub, Maggie O'Sullivan, has been absent this evening. She's taking care of some business. Kieran, she told you about that, so she's not in the pub in the speakeasy right now. And this is kind of your first night, kind of managing the place on your own without her at least watching over your shoulder. So at this point, Satroka, you come to realize that you were supposed to be on stage 15 minutes ago.
Oh.
And where's the band?
Where is band? Band? Where are? She's got a cigar, a long, narrow cigar, which is her favorite kind, in a holder. And she's wearing this, really expensive looking dress that shows off a lot of her charm and personality. And she can't really walk properly in it. She kind of has to do that sort of Morticia Addams wiggle. And she sort of goes over to the stage, and she gets up on the stage, and she's like smoking heavily and swearing in Russian, trying to figure out where everybody is. Tapping things, making noises, playing, like messing around with the instruments on the stage because she knows that pisses them off.
Okay, perfect. So your band is Jimmy Esposito on drums, and he's kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. Neil Turner is the pianist. He has a severe case of "Don't you touch my piano," and Ted Whittles is the bassist. He has like the big upright bass. So you go over there and you start clinkety clinkety clink, and
I would wait for the piano last.
Oh, sure.
And I would just stand there with my hand, the other one smoking, of course, over the piano, not touching it. But how siblings are, where you're like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Because it's like I'm waiting. I'm like seeing if it's
getting
going to
closer and closer, just right to the key.
I'm waiting to see if it summons. Like somehow he senses that I'm about to touch his piano.
He doesn't sense it with you not yet touching.
All right, then I do it. I start making terrible noises. She knows how to play, so she purposely makes it make the worst sound.
Oh, great. Okay, so you start playing something in like a minor key, diminished seventh.
Off.
Sounds like a dirge. It sounds like a dirge. Like there's a funeral going on. And Neil comes just tearing out of the back room with a cigar in his hand that's down to like the last inch. Yeah, that's not surprising. The band members oftentimes kind of retire backstage and have a smoke and a drink in between sets or before they get going. And he comes out, he's like, what are you, damn it, Ro. Hands
we are late 15 minutes.
The keys.
15 minutes. We are late.
Why do you insist upon playing horrible, horrible music? I know you can play. Play something good. Play an introduction for yourself. Do something that the crowd over here is going to enjoy. But no, you've got to play. Oh, God.
Fine. And she sticks the cigar in her mouth. She sits down at the piano, and she begins with this like really beautiful sort of formal, introductory
melody.
Like she's about to go off on some big thing. And then she starts singing loudly a really raunchy Russian drinking song.
Now this is in Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You get going.
And then she'll do a verse in Russian.
Okay.
And then she'll do a verse in like badly translated English.
Okay.
She sort of wants people to get like she's just trying to give people the gist of what the song is about.
Sure.
Yeah.
You start singing the Russian version. You sing the verse in Russian, and then you kind of jump to badly translated English, and then to another verse in Russian. By the time you hit the third verse, which is now in Russian again, there's a table of 3 Russian gentlemen who are just like they got their glasses up and they're just singing along with you.
Yeah.
For Ukraine, for Ukraine.
I'm like making faces at the band because I've gotten everybody started. Hi, Jen. I've gotten everybody started now.
And one of them kind of wobbles up to the stage. They had gotten in here a little earlier, and a couple of them are already 3 sheets to the wind. And he goes and puts a couple of coins in the tip jar on top of the piano. And Neil, the pianist, looks at you, looks at the tip jar, just shakes his head. He goes back to the back room. He gathers up the other 2 members of the band, brings them back out, and gets everybody started playing. So that your regular set can start.
Yeah, but she's definitely gonna keep flirting with the Russian guys and keep because they're drinking, so they're spending money, and they're tipping me. So yeah, they're gonna get a lot of attention. If anybody who spends money on her gets attention. Okay.
Well, you've got a number of people that you need to give attention to, because you are, your singing in the music and everything is actually kind of out of the ordinary for a pub this small. Usually they don't have a musical act. If they do have music, it's it's going to be like some Irish person with one of those little squeeze boxes singing Irish drinking songs. It's nothing particularly spectacular. Whereas you're belting out some pretty classic and very new and modern tunes of the 20s.
Yeah, she would be on top of all of the most recent songs. She would try and learn them as soon as possible. Often, I think she knows the songs and she knows the words to the songs, but she doesn't necessarily know what they mean. So I think a lot of the time she's just sort of saying the words.
Sure. Okay, so you continue with that. The place starts to get hopping. More people start coming in. Rose, you're sitting at a table with a Russian fellow, actually, named Sasha, who Kieran and Rose, you are the only 2 that know this. Sasha is employed by Maggie, and
she sounds like a really pretty fellow.
It's a Russian man's name. Sasha Popov. He's actually employed by Maggie, but the 2 of you are the only ones that know this. Kieran, you know it because Maggie hired him. Rose, you know this because you happened to listen in at one point and found out that he's what he and Maggie refer to him as being the Sly. That is, he's an employee. He is extra muscle should problems arise, but he's not advertising it. He just acts and functions like a regular at the bar. So he's there a lot. And it's kind of assumed between the two of you that if he is there, that he is in fact being paid some amount. And Rose, you've picked up that he has some proclivities not terribly different from your own. He's one of these odd job types who occasionally is looking for a little extra cash on the side. And he sits down next to you and says, "This is all wonderful, all these people having drinks and singing, but is there any real money to be had? What do you know?"
What do I know? I know that if people drink enough, they tend to get loose-lipped about what they know.
He chuckles. "You hear of any jobs anything needs doing? Perhaps we team up sometime."
Not yet, but if I hear from the grapevine as to a job that does need doing, I'll keep you in mind.
You are very good, Rose. I like you much.
Thank you.
He buys you a drink and kind of settles back in. Says, "Do you hear these rumors about the supply? The supply here on north side near O'Banion is running dry. Some of the Milwaukee people that send down booze and beer, they're not sending it down here no more. There's a big crackdown in Milwaukee. So people are going to have to make more in town or to bring in from elsewhere, some other place. You hear about this?"
I actually haven't heard about this yet. Maybe you'd like to tell me a bit more?
He goes into a discussion about just kind of a lot of probably some of it half-baked, some of it real stories of things happening up in Milwaukee, which of course is a heavily German and Polish population. And so when Prohibition hit up there, like everybody and their uncle just started brewing beer in their basement because they all know how. Because
or they already were anyway.
Yeah. A lot of them were doing a little bit of it anyway, and then people just started doing more of it. So a lot of the supply in Milwaukee actually is internal. It's like there's just different organizations that just employ blocks upon blocks of people that produce alcohol, and they're given a small profit above what it takes them to actually pay for the materials and everything. And they make a nice little, tidy little sum off of this. And they do this, and once you get the beer going and it's all fermenting and everything, there's not a lot to do. You got to check on it, you got to deal with it, but it's not like you have to monitor it constantly. So it's like become a second income that doesn't require a great deal of work for a lot of families in Milwaukee. And they got to the point where they were exporting a lot to Chicago, and they're not so much anymore. Sasha says, "There are rumors floating about that they're going to be bringing more of the Canadian alcohol down through Detroit, through the bridges up to Canada. I think anybody starts to make inroads with the people in Canada and the people in Detroit, they start to be able to write their own cash ticket. This is what I heard."
Well, I'm glad you're willing to tell me so much.
You're welcome. You tell me if any more jobs need be doing. I'll come along, help. We'll take care of business together. You and I can become very rich, I think.
Probably. I'll let you know.
He just kind of relaxes, leans back in his chair, starts smoking a hand-rolled cigarette that smells like tobacco, but it smells like like a tobacco you've never smelled before. There's something going on there. Kieran, you take a look around the whole place. I'm going to say Kieran and Ro, you're both kind of in a position to survey the scene a little bit. Give me a perception sense check. So your perception trait and your sense skill, if you have it, gives you a +1.
Yeah, let's see, what have I got here? Is this load? Did I take? I did not. No. So I've got 2. So, whoops. I did not do that correctly.
That's okay. We're getting used to it.
Oh, I'm over here. So that's 1.
That's not going to do it.
That's 2.
Oh, no.
I'm going to take the first one, but unfortunately they flipped over before I... Okay.
So I got a 9 of diamonds.
And I got an 8 of clubs.
Kieran, you see there's a fellow who's walking around the bar who has been looks to be like, you weren't sure at first, like perhaps he's just kind of a chatty social butterfly and he's walking around talking to a lot of people. Maybe he's asking, eventually it becomes apparent to you that he comes across like he's panhandling drink, basically. He's doesn't have a lot of money and he's looking for, something to drink. And as you're watching him a little bit, and if somebody wants to give him money, what are you going to do, right? But as you're watching, you see that every so often he's pulling some pretty classic misdirection, and he just pickpocketed one of your regular customers. He just slipped their wallet out and into his jacket pocket pretty deftly. Nobody noticed but you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to casually walk up to him.
Yeah, I'll kind of point him out, like, because I'm still on stage, I think.
I just look at you and nod.
Yeah, like I'll, kind of draw attention to him. Now that I know someone else has seen it, I'm like, thumbs up. Good. Go on with the show.
Over
Keep
to
an
him,
eye on it for more.
Hobble across the room, walk up to just behind him. Like, I wait till he's not noticing, and then I go, "Excuse me, sir." I can't help it.
Yeah, what do you want there, fella?
Oh, I think you may have dropped something.
He kind of starts doing one of these where he's patting his pockets and kind of looking around like, "Oh yeah, what I drop, huh? What's no, I think I'm okay."
Oh, yo, you're right. The man that you were just next to, I think he might have dropped something, and you picked it up. Maybe you'd like to give it back to him.
He's playing the dupe, like he's just, oh, what? He's looking under the chair and the table of the people that he was just talking to, and he's completely playing dumb. Just, no, I think everything's all right. Thanks anyway, buddy. And he starts.
I go, hey, sir, one last thing, and I'm going to use hypnosis on him.
Okay, you're going to bust out a power. Okay, so For reference to everybody, this is a game about gangsters with superpowers. Yeah. The thing to keep in mind is that superpowers, to some degree, sometimes it's a little lesser if it's kind of more a subtle power. Sometimes it can be really obvious, like shooting fire beams from your eyes is incredibly obvious. But generally speaking, powers have some sort of manifestation of effect. Like there's something that kind of goes off about them. So what does your hypnosis look like when you use it?
Kieran's
or
eyes
sound like, or
turn a piercing, very bright blue, like almost to the point where they're glowing,
like Night King blue.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's
clear. Can we clear the cards? People with the cards on the table. Because I think you're gonna. What are you doing with ventriloquism? What are you specifically doing with it? Or not vigilante, with telepathy.
At this point, all I want to do is just sort of hold him in place so I can take the item that he pickpocketed off of someone else and hand it back to that person. So it is a charisma/willpower versus target's mind.
Which power is this? I'm sorry.
Or hypnosis.
Hypnosis. I was thinking telepathy. Right. Hypnosis. Okay. Okay. So yeah, you're making a charisma willpower check versus the target's mind score. In the game, characters have a body score and a mind score. Body is for affecting the character physically, and mind is for affecting the character mentally.
So I will get...
They're basically the target scores to hit you. They're akin to armor class.
So first card is going to be 4 of hearts. That's probably not going to do it.
That's pretty terrible.
Let's try. Second card is King of Diamonds. That probably will do it.
Okay, King is very high. Diamonds is it's a success. It's not clubs, so there's no downside to it. Success with clubs always comes with some sort of a complication. That's the downside to getting clubs. Whenever you get clubs, there's something bad. If it's a success with clubs, there's a complication. If it's a failure with clubs, there's a botch. So a king gets him. Are you using? I neglected to ask if you were using any boosts. As part of that.
This time I'm not going to use any boosts.
Okay.
I'm just going to go straight hypnosis.
Okay, so this gets him.
Hold him in place for a moment, basically.
Puts him in a trance for a round, essentially.
Yeah, long enough for me to pull the item that he had been pickpocketing off of the person that I noticed away from him and hand it back to the other person.
Right. So he holds still. He doesn't resist getting pickpocketed back, and you grab the wallet and give it back.
Here we go.
Give it back
to... He picked it up off the ground and forgot to give it to you.
You're saying this to the
person
to the target of the theft.
Yes, and at this point I'm also signaling Sasha.
Okay, just kind of getting Sasha's attention.
Just getting his attention, pointing to the guy that I would like him to deal with.
It's at this point in the conversation that you're having, this is when Sasha and Rose are deep into discussion about Milwaukee and Detroit and beer supply, so he doesn't notice you.
Okay. Well, in that case, once the hypnosis breaks, the guy who is pickpocketing, I'm going to let him know. I'm going to be like, sir, I think it would be best if you frequented another establishment this evening.
He just kind of looks at you like... yeah, okay, all right, Pally. He's kind of thrown for a moment, like he knows something just happened to him. He's not sure exactly what just happened to him. He says, sure, Pally.
And just to be petty as he's walking out, I'm going to trip him with my cane.
Okay, you go to trip him, and you get a solid stumble out of him. And at that moment, the fellow, the victim, the target of the theft, just saw, you gave the wallet back to him, told him, somebody forgot to give it back to you. He interpreted that as this a-hole just tried to rob me, and he gets up and grabs the guy as he's starting to fall from your trip, grabs him by the shirt collar, pulls him up, and reels back. And we're gonna say at this point, there's a little bit of a scuffle. Everybody sees what's going on. Everybody's attention kind of gets focused on this. That there's a fella that's about to beat the living tar out of this guy.
Ollie stands up and just at the top of his lungs, "Oh, there's a scuffle and nobody invited me!" and just kind of rushes forward to see if he can join in.
I'll make sure we're playing some appropriate fight music.
So you switch to something really peppy and fast-paced?
Yeah.
Rose kind of tilts across the table to get a better look. She's thorough interested in this.
Kieran is going to yell at the top of his lungs, "Enough! This is a classy establishment. I will not have a bar fight started in here." If you want to beat this man within an inch of his life, you do it outside.
Okay. Let's do this. It sounds like Ollie, you can go ahead and intervene however you wish. What would you like to do?
Oh, Ollie charged headlong in and just threw a punch. He didn't care who he hit. He has beer in one hand that he magically doesn't spill. Well, he probably spills some after he throws the punch. And he just charges in and starts swinging. Just blindly swinging.
Okay, who do you swing at? Do you want to...
No, you can pick. Let's do it random.
Okay.
How do we want to randomize those?
I'll say I'm going to flip a card. Black, it's the pickpocketer.
Okay.
Yeah, you punch the pickpocketer right in the puss. And he gets punched in the face by you, and then also punched on the other side of the face by his target, and he drops to the floor. Chris, give me. You're looking to defuse the situation. I'm going to
look over at the other guy that threw a punch, and I'm going to say to him, "Oh, nice hook you got there. Let me buy you a drink."
Would you like to make a charisma check to try to defuse this? You've got two people. I mean, now ultimately Ollie gets to do what he wants to do because he's a player character. But the other two people, you can attempt to defuse the situation. Although one of them just got punched twice.
Yeah, I will try to use charisma diplomacy to try to see if I can convince them to leave.
Okay.
So first card is a 7. Not gonna do it. Next card is but an ace of diamonds probably will.
Okay. An ace is always successful, and in the game, an ace is always a boon. If you had gotten spades is also a boon. If you succeed with spades, it's a boon. An ace is always a boon, and a boon basically translates in the game as like an extra added effect. So, and if you were dealing damage or something, you'd be dealing, if it was an actual fight, you'd be dealing more damage. If it's not a fight-oriented thing, it can be anything, any useful effect that's not overly powerful that just kind of fits the situation. In this case, I could say that you get an ace. That's a success. So you convince one of them to take it outside, and with the boon, you convince the other one as well. So you get both of them. Okay. Unless you've got something up your sleeve for the ace.
Nope. Right now, all I want is just both of them to not mess up the speakeasy. So,
all right. The attacker, the other fella, grabs the pickpocket by the back of his shirt collar and literally drags him across the floor, sweeping up a little bit of Ollie's spilled drink on his butt, and hauls him out through the side door where the bouncer is standing, and out into
Ollie's
the street.
busy refilling his beer at the tap, kind of leaning over himself, and he looks over and sees him drive it. "Oh, wait for me! I'll be right out." And he just tops it off, it's spilling over, and he just rushes after him.
Okay, you rush back out there, and these two start getting into a scuffle. The target of the pickpocket is clearly has the upper hand because the other guy got punched a couple times, and so he's beaten the living tar out of this guy. At this point, it is a full-on unfair fight.
Okay.
So you give some thought to how you want to react to that, and I'm going to go back inside.
Okay.
To the rest of you, and Maggie comes walking into the bar. She is cradling one of her arms in her. I mean, she's not it's not in a sling or anything, but she's favoring one of her arms. She's cradling it a little bit, and she looks very, very distraught, very upset.
I'm gonna get up from my table and walk over to see what's up.
Chris, were you saying something?
Oh yeah, I'd say I would walk over to her to see what was wrong. I mean, obviously, I see her that she's upset and that she's cradling one arm. So,
at this point, also the band and Roe kind of take a break, So everything dies down there, so you can get involved.
Yeah, I'll join up with
whatever you
everybody
want.
else.
Maggie,
I want to see what's going on and, get because I've seen everything, but I couldn't hear anything. I don't know what's happened. So I want to go and, kind of walk up to the table.
Yeah, she goes over, sits down kind of at a corner table out of earshot as much as possible. Everybody else, there's the general din of discussion and talk and everything. Even without the music, it's a little bit noisy. Not as noisy as it will get later, but it's a little noisy, enough to cover your hushed voices. And Maggie sits down, and she just she pulls the sleeve of her shirt up, and it's not bruised, but it's like it's clearly her wrist, her lower arm, her wrist is red as if it's been hurt.
That looks bad.
Maggie, who did this to you?
Who did to you?
It was a couple of big Irish fellas. I've been dealing with them for a few weeks now. They coming around asking for protection money. Telling me you've got to find establishment here. It'd be a shame if anything ever came of it. If anything ever happened to it. I told them that they're out of their territory if they're one of D'Aubigne's crews. And that he wouldn't appreciate very well you coming over here and hassling a fine Irish woman like myself. But they got a little rough. I think I'm going to have to go ahead and pay him a little money just to keep this place open. It's just easier that way. They're not asking for much. It's easy enough.
Yes, but once you do, you give small money. This time, you give 1 potato. Tomorrow, 2 potato. Next week, 17 potato. You give them 1, they want all.
I can make sure that it never comes to that. We'll just take care of this. There's no reason. We're doing fine business here. We'll just take care of them. Get them out of our hair. It'll be easy enough.
I doubt it will be that easy.
What did they look like?
Yes.
She gives you a description of 2 kind of big, burly Irish bruiser types. Classic pale skin, kind of wavy, curly, brownish red hair. She remarks that they were twins, from what she could tell. One's a little bulkier, a little heavier than the other one, but they looked an awful lot. At the very least, they're brothers. But she doesn't know them. She doesn't know their names.
Does that sound familiar based on what I would know of the toughs and whatnot in the area?
You don't recognize these guys specifically. Yeah,
They don't sound like anyone on O'Banion's crew.
They might be. O'Banion's crew is big. I mean, he runs the entire north side of Chicago as well as all of the suburbs stretching up kind of toward the Wisconsin border. So, and he supplies booze to all those areas, as well as kind of spotty areas outside of the city proper that he's always just kind of the Irish crew is always kind of fighting a little bit with the Torrio crew for areas outside the city. Although they do have a truce, at least right now, within the city. There's some bad blood between the two groups, but they haven't really gone at each other lately. But you don't specifically recognize. You would if they were brothers, and certainly if they were twins, you would recognize. They just don't sound familiar.
Okay.
Can I try and see what's up with her wrist exactly?
Sure. Are you going to examine it, or do you want to? You can just talk to her.
I would like to examine it.
She kind of lets you take the arm over, and you take a look at it, and if you had to guess, you'd say that she was grabbed by the wrist. Oh, there goes the microphone. She was grabbed by the wrist, and perhaps just kind of jerked around, or like maybe led somewhere, and and pulled by the wrist, rather, somewhat violently. So it's red from having kind of been twisted and grabbed, and she certainly favors it like it's sore.
Okay.
Nothing appears broken.
Well, that's good.
We're gonna take care of this.
Yes.
Oh, Kieran, there's no reason to get difficult about this.
Oh, there is reason.
Kieran, you
Yes.
know it.
This is your place. It stays your place. We don't let others have control.
If they would have been gracious about it, that would have been one thing. But that changed when they laid hands on you. I won't tolerate that.
Back outside. We have this guy is beating the living tar out of this poor little guy. How are you handling that, Ollie? What are you doing?
Well, for the beginning of the fight, Ollie's just laughing and having a good old time, just watching. He's a spectator. As he sees it starting to get a bit out of hand, he does sort of intervene. He walks up to the initial mark, who's now handedly beating the other guy, and puts his hand on his shoulder. He says, "Boy, I think you've done a good job here. I'm a big fan of recreational pugilism in all of its forms, but right now it doesn't look very sporting now, does it?"
As he reels back to punch the little fella, he doesn't hit you, but he's clearly like giving you a push.
Okay.
He connects with your chest and kind of, as he reels back and just kind of, back off. One of those.
Is that the challenger? You're looking for a new challenger. You want to hold the title. I mean, I'm up for another bout if you're ready. One man down. You've got another one in the ring. You want my beer? I'll set it down. Come on. And as he's saying this, I'm going to use a detoxify boost to get rid of the alcohol in my system so that I can actually see straight.
Okay, so you're using. Let's describe for the viewers here. What power?
My power is super resilience, which means I have kind of boosts to health and wellness. But I have the ability to just automatically shrug off the effects of alcohol, toxins, and other drugs just at will as a boost.
So he clears his system out. Boom! He's immediately snap to sober. This fella takes that guy, just tosses him out on the street. He's motionless. He's out for the count. This guy turns around at you, gets his dukes up.
Oh, nice footwork you got there. Come on.
Looks like he's about to engage in, your classic 1920s proper boxing match where he's got the dukes up like this, and it's going to be, real gentlemanly and all that sort of thing. How do you react to that, Ollie?
Oh, I just stand there and wait for him to throw the first punch.
Okay, he flings a punch at you.
Okay, does it connect? Are you gonna pull a card?
Does a jack hit you?
What's that against body? Yeah, that'll hit.
Yeah, that'll punch you. He'll punch you for with fist. He's doing. Okay, here we go, everybody. For dealing damage, everything in the game works off of the color or suit. So weaker weapons like fists work off of color. So we base it off of the color of the card flipped, and it's going to be 1 for red, 2 for black. And sometimes there might be something that's like color +1, so you add 1. And then with more lethal weapons like clubs and swords and guns, you're using the suit, and that starts with clubs is 1, diamonds is 2, hearts is 3, spades is 4, and there might be a +1 or a +2. So in the case of his attack here, he's just fighting with his fists. He's using, I made a check for strength fisticuffs, and flipped a jack, which is going to hit with the diamonds, which is only going to do 1 point of damage. It's going to pop you one in the jaw. Pop.
And I'm going to rub my jaw and be like, oh, it's a clean hit there. You're lacking a little on the end. You got to give it a little snap, and then I'm going to throw one right back.
Sure. Strength fisticuffs. What's your card count?
It's going to be 3. I've got 2 in strength and +1 for fisticuffs. So we have. I'm going to. It's an ace, but there's a complication. But ace is always a boon, right?
That's one of my favorite cards because it's going to be ace, which is successful. It's an ace, so it's a boon. But it's clubs, so there's a drawback.
I'm keeping it.
Okay. Well, with fisticuffs, you're dealing it's black. It's color damage, so that's black. That's 2. Where do you want the ace to go?
I'm gonna do a little more damage with it.
Okay, so you're gonna deal 4 damage with the so you get +2 damage for the boon, and there's a complication because of the clubs, and I know what that is. So we're gonna just roll right along. I'm not gonna reveal that just this moment, and he's still hanging in there. He's like, that was a solid, like, a lesser man would have been KO'd from that, but he's holding on. He takes another swing at you.
Okay. Nice.
And that's another great card because it's successful, so it's going to be, and it's black, so it's two points of damage. It's a boon because it's an ace, so it's 4 points of damage, and it's spades, which is also a boon, so it's 6 points of damage.
Okay, I'm going to use
about as much as he can possibly do.
I'm going to use a moxie point to reduce damage, and I'm going to use my damage prevention boost at the same time, which will allow me to prevent 2 additional points of damage.
You needed to declare using that boost on your turn.
Oh,
and then that keeps it in play for your whole off turn.
All right, well, I'll still use the Moxie to reduce 1 point of damage.
Okay, yep, Moxie, in addition to gaining cards, one of the things you can do is to prevent some damage. So you flip a card, and black is better than red.
I'm sorry?
Black is better than red. You flip 1 card.
All right, so I got black.
You prevent 4 points. If you flip a black card, you prevent 4. If you flip a red card, you prevent 2.
Gotcha. So
that
I'm
prevents 4. So you only
4,
took.
Take 1.
Took 2.
I took 2. I thought he
dealt
did
6.
7. And I prevented 4 if he. Oh, I took 2. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he dealt 2. Yep.
Ah.
He dealt 6, and you reduced it to 2. And now it's your turn. And this poor bastard.
Oh, nice clean hit there. You're learning. All right. Well, let's see how you handle this one. And I'll throw another one. As I'm dancing around, I'm just messing with him. But let's pull. I did not use a boost because I didn't declare it beforehand, so I get my full card count. That's a 9 of spades. Let me go ahead and pull another one. Yeah. That's worse. And 10 of spades. I'll keep that.
Okay, 10's going to hit him. That's spades. That's going to be plenty of damage. You're gonna KO him at that.
Okay.
Down he goes, right next to his buddy that he beat the crap out of. And so here we are at 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. It's dark out. The street lights are coming on, and there's 2 unconscious bodies lying outside of an illegal speakeasy. What would you like to do?
I'm gonna pick up my beer and take a sip and just walk back inside.
Okay, so you just leave the bodies. Very good. Back inside.
I mean, they're not dead.
Yeah, I know.
As far as I know.
The 3 of you back inside are. We'll cut back to you. You're with Maggie. So take it away, all of you.
He coming back now, but I think, yes, we must do some things. We can't let happen. Besides, I want to fight.
Well, your wound doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look like it's broken. But we still gotta do something about them if they're willing to pull on your arm so hard to turn it red.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary, girls.
You're right.
She's clearly pretty shaken. And actually, Kieran, this throws you off a little bit because she's usually a pretty tough lady.
I know, it's making Kieran, like, he's getting visibly and invisibly, like, harder and more intense the more he notices how shaken she is. Maggie, when I'm done with those 2, they won't bother anyone ever again.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Kieran has the vengeful vice.
Okay,
so
sure.
Give him that a little bit. This, yeah, he's
Yeah, for those listening or for those viewing, every character has a number of role-playing guides. One is the character's identity, which is kind of something that's at the core of their being. And then every character also has a virtue and a vice. And apparently Kieran is vengeful. So I'm sure that won't come to bite anybody in the ass.
No, mine is being reckless. And, just running forth into a big fight with these guys sounds like a fantastic
This makes for an excellent combination.
Ollie's reckless as well, which might explain his recent actions.
I'm arrogant.
Oh, good Lord. All right, there's a great combination going on.
Speaking of which, do I get a moxie for, the bar fight and then leaving the bodies in the alley? That's pretty reckless.
Yeah, I'll give you a moxie for just like that. Who cares? Unconscious bodies outside of an illegal speakeasy. Well, I mean, for getting into the fight in the first place, I mean, you had no idea really what you were going up against.
Oh, no, I saw a fight, and I just wanted to be part of it.
Ollie's just a
Really,
joiner.
I just want to belong.
He just likes a good tussle.
Okay, Ollie, you come back in to witness business is going on and people are drinking and everything and talking, and you see this very, very intense conversation going on with some of your friends from the bar, talking to Maggie, who you've come to like quite a bit. Maggie's a good gal, fine Irish lass. Fine Irish mom. She's a fair bit older than you.
Okay. I'm gonna just kind of head my way over to join them. Wipe the little bit of blood on my lip off as I walk up to the table. Maggie, dear, what's got you down? What's got you down? You seem distraught.
2 assholes decided to fuck with her today, so...
Oh, somebody playing my song again.
We have fights.
Yes.
I
Let's
want.
hope-
Well, I just got warmed up out there. I think I'm pretty raring to go. You want to bust some heads?
What do you mean out there? What do you do?
Oh, just a good bit of fun. Nothing to worry over.
What did you do up there?
Just a friendly little game.
I'm gonna pat Ollie on the shoulder and I'm gonna go walk outside.
How did the game end, Ollie?
Oh, I won. Handily.
And where are the losers currently?
Wherever they decided to take themselves, I imagine.
Rose, you walk outside to find the 2 fellas that were left basically lying crisscross on top of each other right outside the side door there. And right now there is a police officer, a beat cop in uniform, who's he's got one wallet in hand and he's looking, and he pulls out the other wallet and he flips it open and starts looking at their IDs. And as you walk out, he looks up at you.
Oh, hello, sir.
That's all.
What happened here?
Well, it appears there was a bit of a scuffle.
Oh my!
Some fella came out of the boarding house here with a drink and beat the tar out of these 2 fellas. You don't happen to know who that is, do you?
No, I don't. Such unfortunate. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, let's flip charisma deception.
All right.
What's your charisma score?
Charisma is 3.
Do you have the deception skill?
I do indeed have the deception skill.
Oh boy, you're a liar.
4 I go. Let's draw one for now. Of course, because I press a button and the button happens. I don't really like that one.
Stick with that. That's great. Oh.
Ooh, that's much
Wow,
better.
we got a lot of
That is
aces
much
flying
better.
tonight.
I'm gonna do this one.
Use them all up early.
Okay. Yeah, you get you feed your little who me officer? I don't know anything. And you sell that pretty nicely with an ace. But of course it's an ace, so there's a boon with it too. So what would you like to do with that boon? You've made it. You've lied your way out of having any knowledge of what's going on. So you're kind of in a position where you could manipulate him a little bit more if you wanted to, because of that boon.
Just kind of bye.
I have been hearing a scuffle going on recently the past couple of nights, but I didn't expect 2 people to be lying here today.
What, do you mean a scuffle out here, outside of the place, or where at?
Like a couple blocks down the street. I heard of a pretty bad scuffle.
You don't worry yourself, miss. I'll go take a look. There might be some there might be some hooligans running around out here.
All right, thank you.
For now, going around.
He takes the 2 wallets. He jots something down. He's got like one of those little police officers flip book notepads, and he writes down some things in that, and he puts the wallets back in the respective fellows' pockets, and says, "Could you get whoever runs this, someone inside there, maybe to wake these 2 up and get them on their way home?"
Yes, I can.
Thank you, miss. And he turns and starts to walk down the street looking for those hooligans.
Then I'm going to turn around, open the door, and yell inside the area and say, "Sasha!"
Sasha appears. He doesn't just, boom, appear, but he walks over. I have to be careful about how I describe things because they're superpowers. Sasha appears. Poop. No, he walks out. Yes, what is... Oh, and he sees the 2 fellas outside. I see you did not
help.
Get very far.
I need some help bringing these 2 inside.
Sure, he goes... He kind of looks at you, gives you a little bit of a smile, and he picks up the skinny guy and starts hauling him inside, leaving the bigger fella for you. And he's kind of chuckling under his breath as he does it.
I'd like to walk up and help Rose.
Okay.
As Sasha passes by, I go, "Such a gentleman."
I'm going to attempt to grab this guy by the arm and drag him inside.
I will assist.
Okay, so you drag these bodies inside. What do you do with them? Just stick them in a corner?
I think it'd be better if we put them both in beds and strapped them down, possibly.
Okay.
Ollie's gonna see them like struggling with this and just walk up and splashes beer in both of their faces and try to wake them up. It's like, that's not how you handle this.
Yeah, a little sloshing, a little slapping, you can wake them up. You could, if you want to
Fellas, it's time for you to go home. You've had a little bit too much to drink, and it's time for you to be on your way.
I'd like to, before he wakes them up, I'd like to pinch some money out of their wallets.
You took up our time. Give us your money.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm just gonna, I'll take a handful. And she seems to have like a little pocket in her dress. No, these dresses don't usually come with pockets. Pocket.
Okay. Yeah, you pinch you manage to snag $10 between the 2 of them.
Hey, they buy us drink.
Yeah, welcome to my my train, everybody. Sorry.
It's okay. At least you know where your train of thought is going.
Wah, wah. Yeah, I live on a main street, and there's a train tracks not too far away. And rather than trying to constantly keep an eye out, mute it, and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to necessarily be able to do that perfectly. So we're just going to let it happen because we're in Chicago and there's noises.
It's
ambient.
It's part of the soundtrack, sure.
It's the L.
You get these 2 taken care of on their way. You've got Maggie, who she's kind of back to her senses a little bit. She's she's still clearly bothered by what just happened, but she's not as shaken as she was. She realized, she's around friends. She's around Kieran in particular, who has always been good to her. And as much as she has taken care of you, you have also taken care of her. Especially in these years since you've grown into a fine young lad. So I will leave it to the four of you to think a little bit. What do you want to do? Where do you stand?
I'd like to gather the three assorted people here and sit them all down at a table, buy them all each a drink, and say, how would you all like to make a little money? It seems I have some business that needs taken care of, and each of you possesses certain skills that I would find most useful in this venture.
I grab now the drink that Sasha bought me and now the drink that Kieran bought me and proceed to pour them into a sink. I'm sorry, I don't want you buying me any drinks.
Kieran raises an eyebrow.
Waste of good spirits.
Is there a particular reason for that?
Let's just say I prefer to be sober at this point in time, seeing as how I just had to drag a body into here.
You're welcome, by the way.
Eh,
Anyways.
I am always...
I'll give you a drink later then. On the house.
I'll take hers. If she doesn't want it, I'll take it.
Oh, yes. Always. More vodka for me, please.
Sure.
I work better when drunk.
Who doesn't really? I like you.
Yes.
I
See?
actually know that to be true, strangely enough.
So we find these Irish type who hurt our friend, and we hurt them.
What are Irishmen, you
That
say?
sounds...
This what they say they are?
The same way I know?
You weren't there for the conversation.
I've only been here like a month, so I probably don't know anybody.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah, you don't know nothing. But they sound, from what the others here described to you, they sound pretty formidable.
I think
Sounds like a
maybe
good time.
not just run up and fight. Maybe we find out where they hang out. Maybe we find out if they have anything we want.
More importantly, we need to figure out who they work for and who they associate with. I don't want to take out two thugs and have it bring more heat down on us. If they're not associated with anybody.
Yes, like when you anger one person and then they come back with all brothers and sisters.
Exactly.
Oh, by the way...
And if they're Irish, that might be a really large family. Irish Catholic,
Yes.
turn of the century.
By the way,
there
Kieran...
could be 12 of them.
By the way, Kieran, we may need to keep the side door locked for a while. The police were kind of sniffing about there for a while.
I turn and look at Ollie and I say, were they? I wonder
Shrugs.
why.
I couldn't tell you. You're asking the wrong Ben.
Ollie, you and me, we find the place around here where we can bring guys to fight, eh? We will.
Sure. Well, it sounds to me like we got a job on our hands. And, if Maggie's situation is any information involved in this, it seems our cause is just. And if our cause is just, we cannot fail. We've got the Lord on our side, and we will go and bring back justice for Maggie.
Are you guys planning on rolling out here at 9 o'clock on a Friday night? Or
Well,
given that a couple of
whatever
you
your
have
plan is,
jobs,
if you want to gather information, that's fine. But I'm game for whatever.
I will finish show, and then
We can look into this in the morning.
All right, then, another drink.
Some of you have already had a considerable amount to drink, and I would prefer you be a little more sober before we get started.
I think so. The evening continues to pass. Now it is the 1920s, and so we're going to teach a little bit of history here. 50% of American households have a telephone. The telephone is already 50 years old at this point, so that's something that to keep in mind. And there is a telephone. There is a telephone in the boarding house. It's in the office, and so I would say probably Kieran and Rose have enough sort of contacts amongst the ne'er-do-wells of Chicago that you might be able to do a little digging just via phone calls and talk to some people and see if you can figure out who these fellows are.
Kieran might have like bigger names than I do, so my job of going around and asking people will be slumming it.
Well, a lot of my contacts are not going to be much better than yours. I have a very wide net I cast. So, but Kieran would definitely reach out to some of his different contacts, especially his Irish contacts, to see if anybody recognizes these two goons.
Okay. Let's have the two of you make, running on the assumption that you're kind of being honest about what you're doing. Unless you want to go in a different direction.
Before I go out to do this thing of walking and talking and finding out what people know about the situation, I'm going to put a wig on my girl because I don't want her going out the way she looks.
So disguise time.
Yep.
Kieran brings you a coat to help with your disguise. It's a woman's coat, too. Just your size.
Oh, thank you. I don't think you realized I already had a coat, but thank you anyway.
Well, he says, I figured you'd want a different coat. One that you don't normally wear.
What exact color is this coat?
Uh-oh.
What color do you need? This one would be probably black.
Well, it is unfortunate I already have a black coat.
Well, I have a red one as well.
Red would probably be better.
Okay, he heads into the boarding house for a moment and comes out with a red coat.
Who did you just steal that red coat from?
Kieran has a whole closet full of different types of clothes.
Women's clothes?
Men and women's, in case he ever needs to go in disguise.
Well, I'm going to throw on a brunette, medium height wig and a pair of glasses. And obviously this lovely red coat. I'm going to stand out like a sore thumb.
So what kind of check do we need to make, Craig?
Well, here's the question. Are you being completely honest about what you're looking for, or are you kind of, well, we're looking for these guys, and here's the reason why, and it's a big lie, because you don't want to, necessarily give away what you want to give away. So
I'm a lie.
Yeah, it's a charisma check, but it'll be deception or diplomacy, depending on kind of the approach you're taking.
I'm going to be mostly honest. Kieran will just explain that he has a business transaction that he needs to commence with these two gentlemen.
Rose is going to say something along the same lines, except more like, these guys forgot to pay me the last time they required my services.
Okay. We're going to say that the two of you are spending each a considerable amount of the evening, whether it be via telephone or actually walking around talking to people. That kind of kills, the rest of your evening. And because you're spending a great deal of time on it, we'll call it advantage for everybody.
Okay.
Because you're not just checking in with 1 or 2 people, you're checking all your sources, as many as you can think of. So let's see that charisma check, deception or diplomacy is appropriate with advantage, so a +1 to your card count from both of you.
Woo, 5 cards.
Oh my
That's gonna
goodness.
be 4 cards for me.
Hmm. I'm gonna stay with that one.
No.
That's Al Capone on the King of Spades.
Well, apparently Al Capone is good for me today.
Oh no. Bad Joker.
Oh.
Okay. Let's do this. King of Spades, successful. Spades is a boon. So June, Rose checks around with a bunch of people, and it takes her the evening to kind of, go around and talk to about a dozen different people. And eventually she kind of gets like, this person points you to that person, who points you to that person, and they're like, hey, I think I've heard of these guys, and kind of gets around to eventually learning that that the two that they were that Maggie ran into are probably Seamus and Patrick O'Donnell. With the boon, you learn that there is in fact a third brother named Liam, and they are triplets, not just twins. But there's been talk. You picked up from some of your contacts that Seamus and Patrick are going around making, basically racketeering, protection money threats in the name of Dean O'Banion. And from what you can tell, they have no actual affiliation with Dean O'Banion. Chris, you got the bad Joker.
Yeah.
So the way this works is in the game, listeners and viewers, there are 2 jokers in the deck, in everybody's deck. You've got a good joker and a bad joker. And the good joker does really, really good things. And when we see one finally pulled out here at some point, we'll talk about what that does. But the bad joker, he's bad. The bad joker, you fail at what you're doing, your turn ends immediately, and you botch. And so something bad is going to happen because of this bad joker, and I'm not going to tell you what that is right now, because I have another idea that can be revealed. Sometimes the bad joker just turns into something that happens right in the moment, but just because of the nature of what you're doing here, I've got something that will reveal later.
That is so much worse.
It is.
Because now I'm just waiting. I'm like, when is he going to pull that out?
Okay, and now the group of you can talk a little bit more about this now that you know about the triplets and their non-affiliation with O'Banion.
So would you guys have come and told us everything you...
Ooh, I wonder.
Yeah, you're the only one with this knowledge, right?
Yeah, right now,
Yeah.
Rose is the only one who has any of this knowledge.
Okay.
Kieran comes back looking rather frustrated.
I might ask... Well, I mean, I don't really have any... I think I would just kind of ask around, since that I don't necessarily have any contacts in terms of, being in those gangs or anything. It would be more like asking or getting my parents to ask around if any other stores or businesses have also been getting threats of, threats for protection money.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask your parents easily enough. They have a phone in their jewelry shop.
Yeah.
So that's an easy enough phone call to make sometime in between sets.
Yeah. I'll just put them up
and you learn that they've not themselves had any sort of visit, and they haven't heard anything about this.
Okay.
But they're also in like the middle of a Russian neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So it's entirely possible
Probably
that
less likely.
whatever's going on here hasn't really stretched in there yet.
Okay.
Because this is something that that like the Russian neighborhood is very tight. They all kind of look out for each other, and like you've seen it occasionally where something goes down with if some non-Russian comes in to the neighborhood and takes advantage of somebody, that things go very, very poorly for that fellow as soon as word leaks out to the other Russian immigrants in the neighborhood. The situation resolves itself very, very quickly, and sometimes violently.
I'm going to return to the group and say, well, my search came up with quite a few leads.
Oh?
Yeah. First thing I know is that the two who took, let's say, a little bit of care to our dear friend are called Seamus and Patrick O'Donnell. Currently, they have no affiliation with any major groups, but they're making threats using Dean O'Banion's name, which means I'm sure he'll love to hear about it.
Oh.
They're twins, though, so it'll be difficult getting to them.
What's our relationship with Mr. O'Banion?
O'Banion? You don't have any particular relationship with the O'Banion boys, the O'Banion gang. Where you live and where you're operating is kind of on the edge of their territory. There's, they kind of bleed over into it a little bit, but not a great deal. So you don't have any direct. You've never met him or any of his family or any of the higher ups in the gang.
Okay.
They're known to be pretty. They put on a great. Well, they're a lot like Ollie. They put on a really good, kind of friendly face. Hi, I'm just a fine Irish boy, and then if things go south, they have no problem getting violent and can be pretty ruthless.
Okay.
Whereas, just to contrast that on the Torrio Capone side, Torrio is Giada Torrio is nicknamed the Fox, and that has to do more with her intellect. She's very sly, very cunning, very on top of things all the time. She doesn't make a lot of ill-informed decisions. Capone, on the other hand, you guys know, he's much more big and bluster, and he's out there. He's in the public eye. He's the guy that wears the rakish fedora and the big fur coat and has a lot of rings and things, and really kind of plays the celebrity. But he's also known for his temper. Torrio manages to keep him under control. Torrio's a whole generation older. She's his she's his mentor essentially. She kind of installed him as in his position, and so she kind of keeps a bit of a leash on him. But Lord help us if Giada, who is getting up there in years, ever were to die or retire. And Capone ends up in charge. So that's where you stand.
So I did lie to the group by telling them that they were twins instead of triplets. Do I need to flip any cards for that, or am I good?
No, I think you told them that. I think all of our players here. I generally don't do a lot of PvP unless it's absolutely necessary. Usually only if it's like an actual fight. They at this point, I'm going to say this: the other three characters have no reason to not believe you for now, because this could come back to bite you at some point. But right now, it's twins.
Yes, I think. Well, they not move out into Russian neighborhood. So they are still maybe small potato.
Small potato, huh?
You love the potatoes.
And yet they hurt our big potato, so I'm pretty certain that they're not that small.
Yes, well, maybe they are thinking they are bigger, and we need to show them.
I thought I had enough of the damn potatoes.
I was wondering if somebody was going to make an Irish potato family joke.
He just kills the rest of his drink. Fucking potatoes.
What's for dinner, Liam? Potatoes. Yeah. What's for dessert? Potato surprise. Potato pie. Okay, so it's closing time. You start to kind of shut her down, start booting everybody out. There's a couple of like Sasha obviously works for you. There's a couple of other regulars that are kind of akin to Ollie in that they're kind of beloved regulars who tend to will oftentimes kind of hang around a little bit later just in case any help anybody needs any help with moving stuff around or getting any rowdies out. But you don't have any real issues. Everybody kind of goes on their way. It's a little 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're shutting down the bar. Maggie has left you, Kieran, to take care of things. She's gone up she's gone to her room.
Ollie is kind of slumped over the table.
She went to her room a couple hours ago. Go ahead.
I said I'm kind of slumped over the table, completely like 12 sheets to the wind, barely conscious, just mumbling through what might be the lyrics to Finnegan's Wake, but you can't really tell.
I'm gonna start walking to my apartment.
All right, I'll get Ollie bundled up and take him up to make sure he gets to bed. Even though I'm fairly drunk myself, so it's kind of like a two-person stumble. Like we're both kind of, leaning on each other. So it takes a great deal of time.
We call that an Irish jig.
You are teaching me Irish jig, yes.
When did we have 2 staircases?
I don't.
Oh.
Are they building when we are drinking? What is happening?
They keep moving. To make them stop.
Okay.
Kieran would like to follow them just to make sure they both get home okay.
We just live up. We gotta stay upstairs.
I know.
Kieran is going to help you up the stairs. Keep an eye on you.
Noticing how much you're both wobbling, he sort of like manages to aim you both in the right direction as you're going up the stairs, and just stays there and makes sure that you both get back to your respective rooms safely. Yeah.
I'll go pass out in my pile of clothing.
Okay, you get everybody upstairs, the two of them, and kind of toss Ollie into his bed.
I'm like slumped over it sideways. My feet are still on the floor.
Shoes on, the whole deal.
No, Kieran would make sure that your shoes were taken off, that you're laying the right way, so if you vomit, you're not going to choke.
I'm sitting face down. I should be okay.
He
Jesus
makes sure
Christ, don't steal my shoes. Oh.
Shakes his head and puts your shoes at the foot of your bed and throws a sheet or cover or whatever you've got in there over you and leaves the room quietly.
I'm unconscious before you ever walk out the door.
Absolutely. And then you get Satroka to her room.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all like she's got all of her clothes everywhere. And
is it messy and just strewn about?
Yeah, so, her bed it's kind of hard to tell, like, where the bed is, because it's all kind of clothes. She seems to sort of sleep in a pile of them.
Kieran just kind of, like, uses his cane to try to figure out where exactly your bed is, and... oh, there it is.
Poke around.
He just pokes around with his cane.
Just
Until he finds
brushing
me.
them off until he
Yeah.
uncovers the bed.
Okay, so you get them both situated.
Yep.
Rose, you go to walk back to your apartment, and you get out when you get outside the boarding house and the speakeasy, and start making your way down the street. You see that beat cop a couple blocks down, and he's talking to some looks like just locals. Nothing really terribly out of the ordinary about him. A couple, and he's talking to them. He's actually got his notepad out, and he's writing in there as you walk down the block. And
Luckily, I'm not dressed noticeably. Still in that red coat,
Sure.
brown wig. I'm sure I stick out like a sore thumb.
Well, it's dark, and he's not necessarily looking for a red coat because that came after he talked to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you go on your way. As you get about a block away from your apartment, you are looking down. You kind of glance down an alley, and you see an illicit exchange taking place. Just kind of out of the corner of your eye real quick. Nobody else is kind of around. You look and you see there is a fellow who is handing an envelope, and you've all seen this before. It's the classic mob passing of the envelope that's a little thicker than would probably be if you just had a couple of pieces of paper in it. It's probably got a small wad of cash in it. And he's passing. There's a fellow, dark, deep shadows. Can't really make out any faces. Just two forms. One of them is passing off that envelope, and the other is handing a crate, but it's not a big big box, bulky crate. Like about 1.5 feet long, a foot wide, 4 or 5 inches deep. Just. And the fellow hands the money, takes the crate, puts it down on a rain barrel, and pries the top of the crate off. Kind of looks inside, slaps the crate back down, kind of taps it, to get the nails to catch again, and picks it up, puts the crate under his arm, and starts walking back further into the alley to the next street.
I'm gonna try and stay hidden just in case that other guy who received the money decides to walk my way.
Okay, you in your red jacket will make a agility stealth check at disadvantage because of your jacket.
A lovely coat. Very lovely.
Your coat, yeah.
I do not have stealth, so my agility is... I guess I'm pulling 1 since it's at a disadvantage.
Yep.
Ah, shit.
Oh no.
Oh.
We're on a roll.
Well, I've been spotted.
Did somebody shuffle these decks?
I shuffled them. Don't you go pointing fingers at anybody. And it's not. I don't do a physical shuffle. It's the computer. Blame Roll20. For those of you watching, actually, just as a note, what you're
We need to bribe some people here.
the table layout and the cards and everything that you're seeing. We're doing this via Roll20 via an actual Capers RPG module for Roll20, which is about this close to being publicly available. So you too can use this lovely background and the cards and all the the players here will attest that their character, all the characters and the powers and all the rule book stuff and everything is all in there. So this is kind of a test run to make sure we're satisfied with it, or I'm satisfied with it, before we pull the trigger and make this available for people. And I'll let everybody know when that happens.
So I guess I can now say I've been caught red-coated.
Yes, you have been caught red-coated with a bad Joker, which has bloodstains and bullet holes all over it. Yeah, that guy sees you. He totally sees you. And he kind of picks up the pace and moves a little more quickly toward you in order to get get a better vantage point. As you're walking now, when he sees you, you are like underneath a street light, in the cone of light, like clearly illuminated, bright as day. So he hustles in order to kind of catch you and be able to see you more clearly in that light. And before you really realize what's happening, he's out there. He's got a really good look at you. And he just kind of looks, and he gives you a kind of a wry grin. And it's not a finger gun, but he kind of gives you a point, kind of points at you, and he turns and starts walking down the street.
He now knows who the fuck I am. I'm gonna continue to my apartment, totally not mentally fearing for my life and checking over my shoulder every 5 minutes to make sure I'm definitely not being followed.
You hustle, take a look, hustle, take a look.
Not hustling. No hustling. Just
okay.
Walking at a leisurely pace. But being careful.
Nothing to see here, nothing suspicious.
Definitely didn't just witness something very illicit happening.
And you're walking along and you look, and you're just kind of glancing around, kind of keeping an eye to see if anybody is noticing you. And at one point, you do take that look back over your shoulder, just at the time where this fellow, now a couple blocks away, is also taking a look back over his shoulder. And it's a little too dark for your eyes to lock at that moment, but you are both clearly looking right at the other. And then you go to your apartment, and everything is fine.
I'm gonna lock the door.
Good. So now you're snug in your apartment. And we are back at the boarding house, and Kieran, you get those two passed out in their beds, everybody's squared away, shoes off, like as comfortable as you can make them, and you go to check on Maggie. And you get to her door, and
not quietly.
You hear what? Yeah, you go to knock very lightly, and you hear just as you knock, and like when you knock, it stops. Like just momentarily, you hear a little bit of a sob, like it sounds like she's crying, and you've only seen Maggie cry maybe a half dozen times in the time that you've lived with her and been her son effectively. And like you knock, and that just like she hitches a breath and immediately stops, and she says, "Come in then."
I open the door.
You open the door. She says, "Oh, Kieran, my boy, close the door, please."
I do so.
You shut the door, and she looks at you, and that face that you saw outside in the bar, that face of concern and of worry, is gone, and it is replaced with a steely resolve. And she looks you square in the eye and says, "You're going to kill these sons of bitches, aren't you?" And that is where I'm going to end the game today.
We are moving.
Yeah, she looks like she's back to Maggie. So that's kind of where we're at. I wanted to just kind of get an idea from you guys what your plan. What are you thinking for next game?
Well,
just so that we can avoid spending a half an hour debating that sort of thing. Let's let's get some ideas on the table, and then we can always talk in between sessions in the Discord channel a little bit, because given that these sessions are only 2 hours long, I don't want to too often spend a great deal of time planning any course of action. Occasionally that's going to happen, but when we can nip it in the bud, let's do so.
I want to find out who this Liam O'Donnell is.
Oh, who the third one is that's not there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I need to find where Seamus and Patrick frequent, and then I need to let O'Bannon know that there's a group of men out there who are pretending to be his men when in fact they aren't.
Yeah, I think I'd like to help.
See if I can manipulate him into taking care of the problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
Ollie's
I'd like
probably
to help
gonna.
with that meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, Ollie's probably gonna want to just hang back at the bar and the boarding house most of the time, just see if they keep an eye out and see if anybody shows up. But like he's always around anyways, so he figures it's not going to look unusual if he's just But he's going to keep an extra eye out to see if anybody matching that description shows up again, and probably handle it very poorly if they do.
Hooray!
I'm gonna guess we're gonna have more problems with the police.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
No.
So it looks like
though.
dealing with the twins. So the twins, in some way, shape, or form, potentially trying to contact O'Banion.
Yeah, I'd like to help with the contacting O'Banion, and then also, I think I'd like to try and find out like exactly what other places have been targeted, so that we can go and talk to them too, and find out like how many people have already been suckered in, and how many are already tanked. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also game to tag around with anybody that just feels like they want to have some extra muscle because Ollie's just down for a fight.
Surprise.
Yeah, and I would just tell everybody like, if you need me to sneak in, you need anybody to sneak in anywhere. That's kind of my thing. So.
Okay, that gives me an idea where to go. That's the first session. We've got a few different directions we can go. All kinds of fun stuff happening. Characters are coming together nicely. We've got a big fat liar in the group, which is always fun. And but that's okay because I have the feeling that Ollie's just going to kind of say what's on his mind all the time. So the two of you will kind of balance out.
Oh, yeah.
Ollie's pretty straightforward.
Well, my character is trickster, so she should be lying quite often.
That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. I love it. Like, and I love it because, you're like, as soon as you do that, you're creating interesting character, conflict and connection, and how are we going to deal with that and sort of thing. So it's great.
And Ollie is super gullible. My perception is a 1, and I'm drunk most of the time. So like, I don't even question anything you say ever. I'm just going to take it at face value. They go right along with it.
Yeah.
So like, if I walk up to Ollie and say, "Hey Ollie, we're going out drinking at this new pub," you'd be like, "Yeah, sure, let's go."
Lead the way. I'm right behind you. I might be a few steps in front of you too.
I think if Kieran ever finds out you were lying, he wouldn't reveal it right away. He'd hold on to it and wait for a moment where he could use it against you. Because that's the kind of person he is.
That's what I would expect, is that someone has to use it against me at some point.
I like that we have like 2 morons and then 2 geniuses. Great.
Yeah, it's always the first game session. I mean, because you guys talked to me a little bit about your characters and you had descriptions and everything, but there's always there's a whole different thing. Like once you start playing the characters and we start seeing interactions and what the energy of each character is and what their relationships are like with the other characters, it's always fun to get that started. So
I think my initial plan was that she was going to be a little bit smarter, but I think kind of coming out as a bit of an idiot, and it just seems to work. I think it's going to work better. So
I don't think Oliver's dumb. He's just he's not very perceptive, and he's kind of gullible.
Yeah,
he just likes to have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm decently perceptive and everything, but I think I just don't think she's ever really gotten around to learning stuff about the world because she doesn't need to. She likes shiny things.
The only thing I feel a bit sad about during this playthrough is my character didn't get to see anyone use a power. She sat there. So far, she believes everyone is the same as her, and I know that's not true.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
When she finally witnesses someone use a power, she's going to be like, "Holy crap, you could use powers? What?" I'm in a group with someone who's rare.
All right. That'll wrap it up for. Thank you, players, for joining me. Let's do a real quick. If anybody wants to chime in, Chris, who are you and where can people find you?
I am Chris, also known as Aura of Awesome. My claim to fame, I guess, would be I'm the guy who convinced you to start a Discord.
Yeah, the NerdBurger Games Discord exists because of Chris.
Yes, so that's my big claim to fame. You can also find me on Twitter as the Villain 463. That's about all I do. I do a lot of conventions in the Midwest. So if you go to Con Alt Delete or Anime Midwest or anything like that, you will find me there running games.
Okie dokie. Rose, is there anything you would like to throw out there? I know you don't have a Twitter, but...
Yeah, I'm not very well known, but...
If you're private, that's cool.
I tend to be around the Canada, Ontario, Cambridge, Kitchener area. So every once in a while I'll go to a convention called Anime North, where I'll be dressed in a variety of things, and sometimes it'll be Homestuck.
Mad Fishmonger, who are you and where can they find you?
Hello, I am Mad Fishmonger, and you can find me on the internet because I'm on the internet a lot. And I am on the Twitters very often as Mad Fishmonger. And I do a lot of streaming. You can see me on a number of channels, a couple of different channels throughout the week. You can see me on Salt and Sassy several times a week, and I will be on the RPG Lab tomorrow. I also occasionally do my own streams because I do a bit of sewing on my vintage 110-year-old sewing machine. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I do all kinds of stuff. So,
and if you go looking for at Mad Fishmonger on Twitter, there on her profile page, there's a link to an Etsy store.
There is.
Where you make all sorts of cool stuff.
I do. I make dice bags even.
And putting the pimp out there for everybody a little bit. If you like cool gaming accessories and dice bags and things, check out Mad Fishmonger's stuff. Because the money that gets made off of that is going to help her go to Gen Con, her very first Gen Con ever.
Woo! Can't believe I get to go! Ah!
And Owen, in addition to being the graphic designer for Capers and Capers Noir upcoming, who are you and where can people find you?
I don't know any of these people. I don't know how I got here. No. I'm Owen St. Gelais. As he said, I'm the graphic designer for Capers, and I'm doing layout for Capers Noir. I actually am a graphic designer that does layout for a lot of different people in the tabletop industry lately. So I've been very busy. And you can find me on Twitter. My handle is OwenSTGE. I just go by my normal name because I'm creative. That's my
much like Ali, you are simple.
Yeah, I'm my own brand.
Hey, it gets the job done.
Yeah, I set my same handle on Instagram as well. I don't post there as regularly. For those of you that are in the tabletop gaming creation industry, I also once a week post handy little tutorials on how to use InDesign yourself if you can't afford a designer. So I've started into typography now, so keep an eye out.
Those go up on Tuesdays.
Those go up on Tuesdays, as long as I can stay on top of them. I missed last week.
So yeah, well, it happens. And so follow Owen on Twitter if you want to learn how to put a pretty book together. For people out there looking to put a game together and wanting to save some money, that's one of the ways to do it is to learn how to use InDesign and do the layout yourself. So that's everybody. I'm at NerdBurger Craig. My name is Craig Campbell. I am the guy at NerdBurger Games. I design Capers. I'm going to be at a bunch of conventions, including Gen Con. I am on the internet through our Discord and Twitter and everything else. And this has been episode 1 of Capers, the Chicago Way. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yay.
Bye.
Bye.